Okay, hello. Nice to have you all back here with us today on this lovely afternoon. We're recording in the afternoon this time. That's kind of unusual.
Hello, hello. Yeah, nice little switch up. We'll see if there's any difference in our temperament. I feel a little bit more awake. Yeah. Who's playing, by the way? Who's your team? Who's your football team or whatever?
Oh, basketball. North Carolina Tar
Bas
Heels are playing today. Yeah,
basketball. Okay.
yeah. We're big Tar Heel fans.
Hmm. Why do you like basketball? Do you like basketball more than football? Do you know why D chose
I
to
do.
Yeah.
100%. I like basketball more than football. I like basketball. It's really fast. The game is like really engaging because it moves really fast.
Mm,
Um, I get distracted in football really easily. So, like, in between plays, I'll get like, I don't know if my mind just wanders or what happens, and then I kind of forget I'm watching a game, and then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, what happened? And then, so I feel like really a football game could be distilled down into about like 15 minutes if you just like actually, watch the playing time.
yeah.
So
Yeah,
I guess my
exactly.
temperament, I just don't have as much patience for football. But I love basketball. Basketball's exciting. It's fast.
Mm,
Dee is a women's college basketball official, so I know a lot about the rules and how the game works, and it's really fun to watch with him. And so, yeah, it's just a really fun atmosphere. And of course,
mm,
Carolina fans are just great fans and fantastic people, and it's really fun to go to the live games and just
mm.
be part of that whole Tar Heel Nation.
Wow. Yeah, that's
What
cool to
about
hear.
you?
I I don't really watch TV. I tried to get into sports when I was younger, but football was one of those things. I'll put it this way: I like football more than basketball. I played football, and I liked playing football. Just around the cul-de-sac. But I also wasn't that good at basketball. Like when I was learning how to play basketball, um, I was playing against kids that were like 3, 4 years older than me. So like in fifth grade, I was playing against eighth graders and ninth graders. And I always realized I didn't have a chance like against them. But in football, it was like if you were kind of fast and agile, it still mattered. Like that age difference didn't make a difference. So, but I don't really watch football. Like the last time I really watched football consistently was probably like 2013, maybe. But it's interesting being back in the work environment and kind of like realizing how sports sort of rules, how like what everybody talks about. Safa and I
Yeah.
were at this we had like a work Christmas party dinner last night, and it's like whatever people talk about football or fantasy or anything is just like literally just sounds like a different language, like halfway through,
Yeah.
and then you're just kind of sitting there like, all right, well, I'll wait till the topic comes to something that like I know something about,
People
but
are really passionate and really
oh
excited about
yeah,
it. So
yeah,
it can go on for conversation for a really, really long time.
yeah. My boss was
Um,
like, his whole week is determined on how well the Broncos do, and I get that. Like I heard people say that a lot, but at the
yeah.
same time, it's sort of like there's a lot of other things that can impact your week and that are at least under your control.
Well, something that a lot of people don't know about me,
Uh,
except for the people who are really close to me, is that I'm actually a huge NASCAR fan.
NASCAR.
So we're traditionally have been a huge NASCAR fan. So I really got into NASCAR. I've always loved racing. I've always thought racing was really exciting. And this is a particularly exciting week for NASCAR. That's why I'm bringing it up because
Okay.
there was just like a huge settlement between Michael Jordan and Denny Hamlin's team and NASCAR just this week. And so NASCAR's been in the news a lot. And it's been kind of an exciting week because I kind of course, I adore Michael Jordan for basketball. He's also a Tar Heel. And then
Yeah.
NASCAR, it's like the two worlds coming together. So it's been an interesting sports week for me. Um, that's a funny thing for me to say, but yeah, it's been really, really fun. But I was
Hmm.
a huge Matt Kenseth fan. I watched Kenseth throughout his entire career. Uh, NASCAR and have been to multiple races and even gotten to be down in the pit. And it's really, NASCAR is a really fun, exciting sport.
Hmm.
I love it.
You know. Okay. Well, let me. Now that we kind of like set the groundwork, I think that I think that like kind of lends nicely into what I want to talk about, which is like spirituality and play. And sort of like, I always feel like just yogis, spiritual community, it gets like this rap of like it's all about being serious, and the closer you are to God, the more you think about God and serving, it's like this seriousness that takes over. But um I don't know. It's like life is about playing. Life is about having fun, and you see like even though I'm not like that into sports, like I love sports, that competition aspect, sort of just the playfulness of it all is like one of the things that binds all of us together. And like, whether it's like if you can understand like, okay, if someone likes basketball, someone likes football, someone like NASCAR, but you know that they like the same like aura of it. Like like generally what you like about sports and competition is the same. And I didn't really mention it much in the last podcast, but like we are in Sagittarius now. Swami Satchidananda is a Sagittarius, and Sagittarius is sort of a fire sign. It's like a it's like Leo and Aries. It has like a lot of energy. It has a lot of forcefulness and sort of an initiative, sort of um uh I don't know, an initiative mindset kind of takes like I don't know. It kind of just like rolls people's thoughts because it's like, all right, if we're gonna make the most out of our time together, like what are we gonna do? Like how are we gonna spend this time? Like yeah, we can make sure that we're well fed, make sure that we're educated, make sure that our emotions are taken care of. But at the end of the day, like progress towards like fun is meaningful progress. It's not like a waste of time. And so I don't know. I just been thinking about that a lot because like I think we were talking a little bit about like sort of the ritualistic aspect of sports, like the national anthem, and sort of how it could even be seen as like the Coliseum, like a religious aspect. But also, I don't want to like negate the fact that like having fun and entertainment be central and an important aspect of life, like cannot be
Yeah.
like understated, overstated.
Yeah, I think there's this belief that spirituality is somehow devoid of fun,
Mm,
that in order to be spiritual, you can't like, you're gonna be quiet and, walk around with your hands folded all the time and just be like, in meditative, contemplative prayer constantly. But
mm,
what I have found is often people who are truly spiritual and live a spiritual life, they actually can be very fun. We have a seminary in Buckingham where they train young men to be priests, and
mm,
it's really fun. You'll see the priests out there playing soccer on some of the fields out in the county.
mm,
We see lots of imagery of Buddhist monks out playing various games, often soccer and things like that, because soccer is pretty universal.
yeah.
Swami Satchidananda used to love to play volleyball. That was one of his favorite sports to play with everybody. He really enjoyed that. He enjoyed learning how to surf and, anything that was like fun. He used to play this game with us that was called Ha Ha. And it was basically like we would all lay down on the ground. There's some really iconic pictures of me with my head on his stomach playing Ha Ha. And so you would just basically lay down and somebody would lay down and then the next person would put their head on their stomach and then another person would put their head on their
Mm,
stomach and so
mm.
forth. And we'd all lay down in this big, huge, like, connected train.
Wow.
And then people would start going, ha, 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 ha. And soon, of course, after you do that, it was kind of like the beginning of laughing yoga. Everybody
Mm.
would start laughing hysterically. And then you couldn't stop, right? Because it was so funny and your head's bouncing when the person's like laughing. And so that's like a perfect example of like stuff he
Mm,
used to love to do with us. Hold on. I have these earrings and I'm going to take them out because my ears are kind of itchy today for some reason.
mm.
Um, Sorry, guys. You don't get to see my beautiful turquoise earrings today. Um, so
Red's the
yeah,
theme of the day.
I know. So there was just like all of these ways that he really engaged in like being fun. And it's interesting because it's one of the things that I think often loses itself in translation when it gets brought down. Because now traditionally I would say Yogaville is not considered like the most fun place. And I don't think the Swamis really are dedicated or engaged in like having a lot of fun.
Mm,
And I don't think it's just Yogaville. I think like a lot of people like think like nunneries or, monasteries, things like that should be just silent and quiet, and people should be walking around in a really, you know, I don't know.
Yeah.
But every single enlightened master I've ever had the great graces of knowing has always been really fun.
Yeah.
Like, we met Swami Chidananda, we were young, he came in and he, like, sang with us and taught us how to, like, sing in rounds, and so we would do this song, he would sing, "Rejoice in the Lord always," and again, I say rejoice, and then he taught us how to do it in a round, so as kids, we were doing, like, this great round of, singing with Swami Chidananda. Um, I just everybody I've ever met, really, all the enlightened masters were really into fun. So it's just ironic to me that then when people somehow
Mm,
translate it to their own lives, um,
mm,
this forced spirituality, we have a lot of this even like we had it in New York, we have it in Yogaville often where like people think you're supposed to be quiet
yeah.
and you're not supposed to be too loud and you shouldn't be laughing too loud or anything like this because it's going to disturb the peaceful environment.
Mm,
And obviously, not everybody agrees with that, but certainly I think that, again, if we go back to this whole idea of like why, if Source wants to experience itself, then wouldn't Source want to experience fun? I mean, isn't that one of the greatest joys in life is laughter and fun and having these great experiences? And sports is a
mm,
fun one because sports is also very communal. So you become part of something and you're part of
mm,
like a whole family of people who all are there. Like, it's really weird when you're at a game, like, you can be sitting next to complete strangers, but, like, if your team wins, all of a sudden you're high-fiving and hugging each other and kissing each other and just being like all of a sudden you're just, like, best friends with these
yeah.
complete strangers that you were sitting next to, like, that 2 hours before that you wouldn't have even said hello
Yeah.
to. And the
Literally, and
next
then
thing, suddenly you're hugging and kissing them, like, and all of a sudden you're like, "Yay, oh my god, this is so great, the greatest moment of our life," and you just shared this really wonderful experience with them. So I think that, that feeling it was actually I was telling my husband, we were talking about NASCAR this morning, and that's how I got into NASCAR, is my next door neighbor, and when I lived in New York City, was a short track racing NASCAR driver. And one of the first times I went to go see him race, he won the race, and it was so stinking exciting.
oh,
Like,
that's
the
awesome.
adrenaline rush
Yeah.
was extraordinary. I'd never really experienced an adrenaline rush like that, and I just became completely addicted after that. I was just, like, hooked on that whole experience, and so I think that that's part of what it is, like, communal and then also being part of something like a team that we always really crave, and then again, kind of like the fun and also just, like, then the devastation when you lose is so funny, right? Like, it's like,
Yeah.
"Oh my god," like, "What?" And sometimes you have great seasons and sometimes you don't. And so it's
Mm,
all very human, right? Like, these ups and downs, and it's like humanity, like, everything you would experience throughout your life, but it's done in, like, this sort of, one step away from, like, your own life. Like, you
yeah.
get to experience all these ups and downs and all these things through being, like, a fan,
Yeah.
and that's a pretty crazy experience that I think is part of the reason why people love it so much.
Absolutely. Um, yeah, that was dope. It's I wish like more people got to see that, like even like some people that I might have been exposed, like the Dalai Lama, for example, like he's always laughing and giggling and chuckling and like playing games and like a 4-year-old, like consistently. And
Yes.
I've I've been getting more into martial arts recently. Like I told you, one of my buddies is here. Me and him, we did a class together, and um, I was always talking about martial arts in the beginning of this, but I got into like jujitsu, which is, like I said, it's sort of like play wrestling but more serious. And
Mhm.
I like the belt system and all that kind of stuff, and the gi and like the uniform. And what you see is like a lot of these guys that are like black belts, like they have like a childlikeness to them.
Mm.
There's like in that when you're a white belt like me and you see all the other white belts, they're so serious, they're so like, you're so focused, you're so intent, and it's like and then you roll, like we roll together and we're like, like, putting so much force into it, and then we roll with the black belt and he's smiling and laughing as he's twisting his arm over our head, and we're just like, like we can't even see straight. And um I don't know, there's just something to that. Like, so Sagittarius is obviously associated with like Santa Claus and like abundance and like but it's also associated with like higher, like philosophy, higher mindedness. And it's interesting how like higher mindedness is also associated with like playfulness and this like
Mm,
need to play, like, okay, how can we make the most out of this situation and have the most fun out of it? Given the timing of the year that it is, it's like right before winter. It's like sort of almost like the campfire type thing, like the cold, the warmth before like the long winter. And it's like you
mhm.
have this almost like last supper, like the feast before you go through this difficulty. And all the things that you're saying, it's sort of like we're bound together by our successes. And like we feel, when you have this shared identity with someone else, it does give you an opportunity to rejoice in what they rejoice in. And I feel like the reason why these spiritual masters are so happy is because their expansion of their team is like everything is their team, including the ants. And it's like whenever like anything around them succeeds or quote unquote could be perceived as success, they can rejoice. Just like how like you can slap, that guy, like you might not even like that guy, but you see he's wearing a Giants jersey and it's like, okay, now he's my homie now. Like we're besties in this situation. And that's what you feel. I feel like I got a chance to meet Domingo Ruiz, who wrote the Four Agreements, and like he's a Toltec, and there's a lot of lineage. And you know, I don't think he walk around and identifies as an enlightened master, but I think that those around him and who have experienced him, and like I think he has the rap sheet and the resume to at least back that up if he was in that lineage. And it's like when they're in front of you, it's like this like absolute presence, like almost like they're opening up a present. Like you're that present that's being opened up and they can't wait to see what you are. They can't wait to see. And I think so often, you know, a lot of us like we kind of like gloss over things, skim over things, not really allow people to open up and see what they are. But that's
Mhm.
what I've noticed. And like when so it's almost like when you give people a chance to open up and let them present their beauty to you, it's like you have almost no choice but to rejoice and be happy about that and enjoy that on a deep level. And then of course we referenced before, love God and love your neighbor. So it's like as you're like pouring love into your neighbor, you're seeing this, but also as you're pouring love into God, you're also seeing it everywhere. Like every little thing can make you laugh or can be silly. Like I've seen this in my own life where it's like I say this to myself, I'm like, we say like God is the most high, which means he's the funniest and the most ironic. Like, like and the most dramatic. Like he's all the things. Like so when I look at like my life, it's like, oh my God, that is so ironic. Like some things are just so specifically ironic that is just hilarious. Like even things that can be sad or difficult, they can also be ironic and then they can also be
Mm,
funny and that can make light of it. And
yeah.
the last thing I want to say about Sagittarius, a little bit of it is it comes right after Scorpio. And Scorpio is sort of about the darkness, right? That's when fall is already set in and you really notice things are dying. Like you're really Halloween is in Scorpio. Um Sort of just like the late night hours and how those hidden things influence us and how sort of what we talked about before is how like sometimes our desires can lead us to do things that we keep as secrets and those secrets can like start to eat away at us. But then through Scorpio, we learn that like, no, these are things that just happen. Like I just so happened to be in that situation and did that thing. And I know that life can be bad. And then you go into Sagittarius and it's like, well, how good can life be? How great can we make things? How can we use this? How can we use the energy that we have to make this experience a little bit better? And I think because you know that because like let's say we take football or NASCAR or martial arts or any competition, up until that competition they were suffering. right? They were being
Mhm.
tested. You were going through you had your workouts, you had your practices, people were getting cut. Like you have your natural things that are happening. It's not like these guys and gals are partying every single day before they get to the big game. No, it's a lot of
No.
discipline and difficult action. The celebration comes after that test, if you will. The competition is kind of like a test in a way. And even win or lose, you can still celebrate. Like I lost the fight, but I gave it my all. Like let's celebrate, or vice versa. I won. Let's celebrate. So I think like there's deep wisdom in that. That like whatever suffering that we go through, it's meant to be a catalyst and fuel, almost like charcoal for that like new fire that'll get us through the winter to where we need to be more disciplined and more focused to make sure that we survive. And so like I love that you brought up that analogy of really like digging into how people who don't know each other can love each other just because they like the same thing. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, I don't know. That's my thought on that. So, um, anyways, do you have anything to add to that?
No, that was actually really good. Nothing was coming up for me on that one. It's, I just think like maybe it's just key for people to understand that this path that we're on, this journey that we're taking is multifaceted. There is an important aspect to enjoying everything and every part of it. So there's going to be really joyful moments and really tragic moments. And the idea is to not get too attached to any of it and to just enjoy it for what it is, and realizing that it's just play and it's just part of the fun. Like, it is easy to get really wrapped up when you're in the middle of watching a game. Like, sometimes it's almost like you physically, you almost feel ill when and like so stressed when your team is doing bad.
Yeah.
But then the game's over and then you got to like go back to your life. You can't just like, you know, dwell on that forever.
Mm.
And so I think there's something also that it teaches us about like realizing that we can let go of things and we don't have to remain attached to the joy or the sorrow. Um, that sports fans kind of have to get really good at that when
Yeah.
you're not a sports fan. I don't know that you
Especially
have
from
as
the
much
DMV. Especially from the DMV. Yeah, that's funny.
It's crazy, right? I mean, like, um, because your team is not going to be great every year.
Mm.
And some people have teams that are never great, but they still love them. And you can really like sit with like a lot of years that it can be really, I mean, for the Tar Heels, we just went through a few seasons that were pretty brutal, that were not
Mm.
great. We had some great players and some great moments and great stuff was happening, but overall, it wasn't a
Yeah.
great season for us. And so you kind of learn that, like, okay, well, some seasons are going to be like that. And I think that that's really, it does prepare you for something in life that we're going to experience, because as long as we're here participating in this reality, in this human experience, it's important to remember that it is all part of the fun.
Mm.
And that, again, not to get so attached that you lose your peace when your team wins or loses, but to realize that, you just have to enjoy it in the moment and then just realize, like, okay, no, I'm going to let it go. I'm not going to let it steal my peace. And yeah, I just think, like, in a weird way, being a sports fan gives you a great chance to practice that, because
Yeah.
it gives you like also neutrality, or a way to like look at the rest of your life and be like, I can apply this to other areas of my life. This is not the only area of my life I can apply this to. So when things are, when you're successful in your job or things are going great, okay, great. But then you're going to have some seasons where it's not so great. And,
Mm.
or in your family or your relationship. I think relationships really go through seasons. I know very few people who have a relationship, especially if you've been married a really long time, where you're like, every year was equal, either in horribleness or greatness.
Yeah.
Like, there are definitely seasons. So, I think it's interesting that, sports is something that people really resonate with and that it does give us skills that could be applied to other parts of our life in such a beautiful way. Skills that, yoga teaches us,
Yeah,
skills that, different religions teach us. And yet it's funny that we can also learn these skills through being a sports fan.
true. Yeah, it's funny. One of the main reasons I feel like I couldn't watch football when I was younger, my camera's going all over the place, was because every time I would watch people play football, I wanted to play football. I was like, I can't wait to get
Mhm.
out there. Like, I would just go outside and be like, who wants it, And just like piggybacking off yoga, and I guess I'll say football and martial arts, and just like some of the lessons I've learned that got reinforced the more that I learned about yoga, um, is like in football, pretty much every position is like a different role. Like, there's also like this feeling of space, like of separation. Like, unless you're like a lineman, you're very close to each other. But like if you're like a skills position, typically you're pretty spaced apart. And so we would always have this thing. I played defensive back, which means I would try to prevent wide receivers from catching the ball, or I'd try to prevent like typically deeper runs, like wider sweeps or like deeper runs if the linebacker can't get to him first. So we would also have this thing where you practice there's like X's and O's, and you're supposed to move here in the first couple seconds and backpedal like this and there's all these different things. So what they would always say over and over again, what my coach would always say was just do your role. Like,
Mm,
if you notice that, let's say there's like two people on your side that you need to guard. So there's two offensive players and there's two defensive players, right? And you're doing, let's say, I don't know, like zone coverage, which means if one of those two people on offense moves out of your zone, then you leave them alone. You let the person that zone they move into, you let them handle it. So we typically this is like cover two, cover three. These are like very common defenses in football. And but anyways, the idea is that if everyone does their job excellently, the only way that other team will be able to score or make progress is if their play was a better play. If their play by design targeted the weaknesses in our defense.
mm,
That's the best case scenario. Where it's like everybody's perfect. It's really a game between the coaches' minds. That's kind of like the ideal scenario. And I don't think it's really like that in a lot of the other sports, because it's kind of continuous flowing play, as opposed to like you start, you stop, new play, new play, new play, new round each time. So, anyway, so in football, there's like this overarching sense, especially like as a defensive back and probably a wide receiver and running back, that it's like, yeah, you really have to be as good as you can be, because it's all dependent on you. Like, your coaches are they're almost telling your players not to help you if they see you fail. It's almost like, I'd rather, I'd rather you do your job and that play go poorly than you
mm,
not do your job and that play go poorly. And it was interesting, because the idea is that, like, if you lose your discipline to stay in your zone, the offense is going to take that to their advantage, and they say Quentin keeps leaving his zone, he keeps leaving his assignment. We're gonna trick him and target that side. But if he's always sharp
mm,
on his assignment, then we can't go to his side no matter what. That person's shut down. And I think, anyway, so something in yoga is kind of like that, where it's like we always say, focus on the mat, focus on yourself, focus on what you can do. Same thing in track and in racing too. It's like you're not really racing the person next to you, even though you might see flashy pictures of like athletes looking to the left and right, and like peace signs as they cross the finish line. But really, it's really you against you. You're fighting against your own PR. And if you emphasize that, you might look up one day and notice that you're in the front, but that's not the emphasis. The emphasis is to execute your role, right? And I think, in football, there's very narrow roles, but in life, you can kind of use that same mentality. I'm a part of a team. I have certain strengths and weaknesses that supplement my partner's strengths and weaknesses. We communicate what we want to do, and then we execute our roles, and we hold ourselves accountable to it. Like, and then that would be a nicer way, right? That's kind of how I would like things to be. And I think that's what yoga helps develop, that mindset. And then with the one-on-one sports, it's sort of like my boss would always say, my superintendent boss, he was like, "There's no one here behind you." Like, even in football, yeah, that guy misses a
Mhm.
tackle. There's still the linebacker. The linebacker misses the tackle. Then there's a strong safety. Like, whoever can get there can get there. But if it's a one-on-one fight or a one-on-one situation, sometimes in life, like, you can't always look around and be like, can I tag out right now and have someone come help me before I get, my face beat in? There is an urgency to develop refinement and to practice like getting better. And I like that approach about life where it's like if you're, they're gonna say if you're standing still, you're moving backwards. And I think like Sagittarius specifically is like if you just stand still through the winter, I'm sorry, brother, but you're not going to make it to the other side. Not because we don't want you to, but because sometimes in life you get squeezed a bit and to get shown your own strength, to let you be reinforced and understand, no, no, I can do this. I can, I can take this step and step into the unknown. And so like I like that like I feel like yoga in sports and it's interesting, yoga goes so well with sports. No one stretches, but it's like all these sports would benefit if they actually took stretching and the hatha, and pranayama aspects of it seriously. Um, but
Not
yeah,
just
that's
physical
yeah,
aspects either, but, like, the mental stuff. So
yeah,
many sports are played in your brain and your mind, not
hmm
with your body, and so many sports benefit now from really applying these mental aspects of yoga to their practices.
mm. Yeah, and it's interesting. You'll hear athletes these days, and they talk about sort of implementing meditation and implementing like other things outside of just like the traditional strength training thing to get their mind in this space where they can succeed. And like I think I might have mentioned this before, it's like whenever you play sport, I've heard every sport I've ever heard of, the coaches usually say like visualize success, visualize yourself catching the ball, visualize like, kicking the ball, whatever it is, successfully, rather than like kind of worrying and being nervous about what's going to happen. And
Mhm.
I think yogic practices and tools give you like give you the space to exercise that muscle of concentration, of concentrating on being able to create an imaginative scenario that you want to have. Like so many of us, even if we do want to visualize doing well, we might be able to do it for like 10 seconds, maybe 15 seconds. And then your attention drifts to this and that and this and that. But I think yoga sort of says like there's almost like a direct correlation to how much you concentrate on something and sort of how likely it is to happen or how likely it is to influence the world around you. Um, yeah.
Yeah, I think, the concentration factor is so key to your results. Being able to concentrate on what you're envisioning or what you want to have happen is such a direct correlation to how well you're going to achieve it. And I think this is one of the things that sports has really tapped into in an amazing way. Um, any Olympic athlete knows that they have to visualize whatever they're going to do, whether it's their routine or, the skiers, the path they're going to go down on or the lift or, skaters, whatever it is, whoever is going to compete, the visualization over and over, the creating the muscle memory in your mind, um, is such a huge part of like a winning mindset. And this is not woo woo in sports. It's like this is what all athletes, especially at a really high level, are taught. Even when you're watching basketball, like you'll often see the players come up to the free throw line and just like go like this
Mm,
to watch, like see in their mind the ball go into the hoop before they actually even shoot the free throw.
mm.
So there is a lot of this that sports has managed to build into um, their practices and see how it's really successful and significant. And I think when you don't play sports, particularly when you're not getting to that level where you're at a higher college level or a professional level, I'm not sure you get as much of the benefit of that. But once you start getting to a more elite level in sports, all of this stuff that we learn in yoga is just a given. Like, that's not even a question anymore.
Yeah.
And if you look at even someone like, Tom Brady, right, who arguably was one of the greatest football players, he used so much yoga wisdom, whether it is from mindset or, um, how you feed your body, what nutrition is good for you. Uh, this is how he managed to play at such a high level, well beyond an age that most people would be injured or have to retire. And he utilized every single alternative health, whether it is acupuncture or massage or Ayurvedic eating or, I mean, he really like delved deep into, all the things. Like he was really
Yep.
like, I don't put things into my body that are not clean because I need this body to be working at its optimum. Um, I don't drink, I don't do drugs, I don't, in order for him to play for as long as he did, he really had to have this like idea of a body of optimal health or perfect health and strength, which is like part of the goal of yoga, right? This goal of integral yoga is a body of perfect health and strength, the mindful of clarity and calmness. Like these are things that athletes learn at an elite level. And it's what makes them so incredible. You hear somebody like Simone Biles talk about, what it's like to train as a gymnast. And so many of things are also built into her training and any elite athlete. So it's interesting that sports really does follow a lot of yogic training. So even if you're at like a lower level of sports or um, you don't have access to all these elite trainers that maybe other people do, yoga is a great place for you to really delve into because yoga, just by doing, going to yoga classes and meditating and getting into the breathing practices, all of that is going to make you a better athlete. Hands down. I mean, that's a given.
Yeah.
That's not a question. It will make you a better athlete.
Yeah. 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 I think that the like looking at the body as an athletic like vehicle is really helpful. I think especially when you have dogs too, you and or just when you see dogs, it's like pretty much from start to finish, dogs are active. They want to be active at the very least. Like, I'm sure there's a few exceptions here and there, but I really feel that way that like when you pay attention to yourself and just say like, okay, how can I optimize my life? Like oftentimes, like, yeah, maybe you could try to be a little bit earlier to work or, read a little bit more or do this or that. But oftentimes, like, it might just be something that you can just address internally. Like what would like Tom Brady or Michael Jordan or, use X disciplined athlete as an example? Like what would they not tolerate in their body? Because at the end of the day, I'm burning way less calories than that person. Like that person can tolerate
Well,
more poison than I can. You know what I mean? Like, that person that is in top physical shape, like, yeah, they can maybe handle something unhealthy, but can you, right? Can you really honestly say that in that context? And I feel like one of the things about life is like we really don't know how high the heights can be. We don't really all these athletes or anybody that you can think of, like Tom Brady probably didn't even know when he first started being disciplined about his eating regimen just how far it would take him. Like, and
mm-mm.
I would even say a lot of the older guys, like a lot of the older podcasters that are healthy, like they say the same thing. They're like, man, when I was 56 or when I was a kid, 56, 50, 60 was like broken down. Most guys weren't even really able to do anything. And so
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up because I think that's the spirit that I also want to encourage. I try to encourage it in my own workplace, but everywhere where it's like, don't let the world around you like kind of kill you. Like, what the principles are. You have to take care of yourself. And like, it's so tempting in office culture to sit in a chair and just sit down all 8 hours or like stand up and do a slight back bend and then sit back down again, eat like have no healthy snacks and not really engage in like a health not I shouldn't say healthy, but engage in fun with each other, like trying to have fun with each other, trying to be healthy with each other and see them as one and the same. And like like one of the things I was thinking of, it's like it doesn't necessarily come naturally to do this, like, or when you are low on energy, it's kind of difficult to get to that space of like, let's rejoice, let's have fun, let's play. Like that's an energetic kind of thing. Like, the first step is like, let's be calm, let's be quiet, let's be cool. And when I was reflecting on what you said earlier about like spiritual life and like how it is so serious now, it's almost like people think that their fun is the problem. Like they think like I like to have fun through doing cocaine or whatever. So they associate fun with these negative things. And then so they're like, okay, but like, Mima at church, she was real serious or whatever. So that's who I'm gonna replicate and I want to challenge that and say like that might be decent and that might be polite, but like loving God is like,
Mhm.
bro, when I haven't seen my wife in like a minute, like the amount of excitement I get, like you can't really temper that down. It would almost be disrespectful if I was polite about it. Like this is the
Yeah.
Lord of Lords that we're thinking about and dealing with on a daily basis, especially in the spiritual life. Like how can you not be over the moon all the time when you perceive like miracles and everything? Like it's gonna almost force you to be like really happy and really jovial. And so I like to encourage that. I feel like just bringing in my background, like I think black gospel music really incorporates that, where it's like the rejoicedness is spirituality, but then also like everywhere you go, it's like you know, the company that I work for, we pride ourselves in saying that we do civil engineering done differently, and I'm like, if we eat the same and if we work in the same work environment we don't do it differently, right? If that's not different, like maybe we have different types of personalities that work for the company, maybe we might call you a little bit more, but fundamentally, like we're made up of what we eat and how we spend our time, and that will manifest itself out on what we create. And so anyways, what I was thinking of is like, really make hay while the sun shines. Like if you're in good health, this is probably the same thing that all of us say before we get into the new year, but like if you're in good health and you can get out there and get active or do something and you've been kind of you've been putting some sort of putting your body off to the side and thinking that like, maybe any friction that you feel in your life might not be related to that, like now's the time to kind of refocus and reprioritize this vessel and be like, okay, am I as sharp as I can be as I'm moving through the world? Like maybe my
Mm.
dullness is causing me so much pain. And so like also as you're doing that, of course, Sagittarius can be a little bit cutthroat, right? That energy of just be like, you eat or you don't. Like, sorry, like, you do this or you don't. But at the same time, you have to be gracious with yourself. You can even joke with yourself and play like, I'm so silly. Like, I did it again. Okay, this time I'm gonna do better. Rather than saying, I suck. Like, dang it. Like, this is terrible. You can use it as an opportunity to just be playful still, even if you fall short and then get back up again. Like, it's all play the whole time.
I think this is really great advice also because obviously we're coming into Christmas and
Yeah.
so and the holidays and everybody's going home to see their families and there's all these get-togethers and that causes an extra level of stress and anxiety for many
Mhm.
people and then of course there's a lot of sadness and loneliness around
Yeah.
Christmas because you feel like everybody else is, you're not as happy as you should be or all the things that go along with the holidays. And kind of remembering some of this stuff of like, you know, my mom has this great phrase that she always reminds us, even as we're growing up as kids. She always would say, if you miss the joy, you miss the point.
You missed the joy,
And
you missed
really
the
trying to
point.
focus on that joy in your life and just finding these moments of joy, even when you're with your family and they are triggering the heck out of you and you feel like you're going to strangle them, find just one little moment of joy. Maybe it's like your baby niece is just smiling at you, or, your nephew is, running around in the snow in his snowsuit, just being adorable, or you got to see an old friend from high school that you haven't seen in a while. Really try to focus on finding these little moments of joy. And then also, you're going to be eating a lot of food and be mindful of like what food and what you put in your body can do to your mood. So
Mhm.
don't beat yourself up. If you're feeling extra irritable or you're feeling extra sad Or if you're feeling a little depressed, don't beat yourself up any more than you have to about it, because some of it could just be food related. Could just
Yeah.
be like, wow, you got way too much sugar in your system, or wheat or dairy, or just too many combinations of food, and your digestion is struggling, and your, little gut bugs can't handle it. And so your serotonin levels drop. Like, don't catastrophize stuff that maybe is just biological
Yeah.
and just
Yeah.
biology doing its thing. So give yourself a lot of grace and just realize, like, just like these yogic tools can really help us have this optimum body and mind. Um, Also recognize the flip side of that is that when we're not doing these things, often our mind and our body are not optimized, and that's okay. But just recognize that it's not a failure. It's not like, oh my God, every year I come home for Christmas and it's such a shit show, or whatever it is. Just realize that some of it is just biological. Some of it is just like, I sat too much. I haven't exercised enough because I've just been sitting on the couch, like visiting with family or watching sports on TV. And so I just have not been active enough. Or I've just been eating or drinking a lot of stuff. Or maybe I drink more alcohol than I'm used to. And now it's
Yeah.
just caused a little bit extra depression in my mind. So just keep these things in the back of your mind as you're going through this holiday season, and just try to be really kind to yourself. And remember that it's just a season, it's just a phase. You're going to go home, you're going to get back on track. Um, you know, yes, this is a time of year where we are having just all of these parties and fun and social connections. And along with that, we pay a price because there is a lot of fatty food or
Yeah.
alcohol or other things that are involved. But that's what January is naturally for, right? Like, we go through this season of like joy and festivities and all this connectedness, which feels pressured, but don't make it feel pressured. Just find these moments of joy in it. And then realize, yes, that's the reason why we all have these, like, you know, these, what do they call them? I don't even remember what they call them. With In January, when you make a
Oh, dry
pronouncement.
January. Revolut no. Revelation?
This
No.
tells you how
Re
much I actually do them anymore.
resolution or whatever? Yeah, New Year's resolution?
Resolution, yes,
Yeah,
your
yeah,
resolution.
yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Um, I'm not a big fan of resolutions. I feel like
yeah.
you just have to, like, whatever but it is a natural thing for us to say, like, okay, I'm going to get back on track.
Yeah.
So then we set these resolutions, and then often we can't even meet the resolution because we set some unrealistic resolution that is a backlash of whatever we experienced during the holidays. So I would just say, like, slow down, be kind, just be present with all of it. Try not to judge it too much, and just be witnessing it and experiencing it and just being like, wow, sucks, or this is okay, or this is what it is. Let me try to find these moments of joy. Let me just appreciate the fact that I'm not being as active as I normally would be, or I'm eating things that I wouldn't normally eat, and that's affecting my biology and my chemistry and my brain. And then just know that even without a resolution, January is going to be different.
Yeah.
We're not having party central in January. So all that will shift, and you'll get back on track of whatever your balance is. So I think this is a perfect, like, kind of tie-in um, to the whole overarching conversation we've had about sports and how yoga and sports and everything go together, because as we look at how much these things can affect our physical um, agility and strength and ability to do these sports at a high level, we also get to appreciate that in our daily lives, especially during the holiday season. I
Mhm.
feel so like I love Thanksgiving meal so much. And it always makes me feel so awful because I am not used to mixing 7,
Yeah.
8 dishes
Yeah.
together in my stomach. Like, I am pretty much like a one bowl kind of person most of the time. So my plate is usually just like one thing, or like,
Yeah.
like rice and beans and vegetable, but like not like 5 different side dishes
Yeah.
with tons of spices and, like,
Yeah.
different things all mixed together and sugars and, so Thanksgiving often traditionally, would stress me out because I would be so like, I love the food so much. But now I'm just like, "Whatever, I'm gonna eat one meal, I'm gonna enjoy it, and I know that my stomach is not gonna feel the best afterwards, and I don't do it every day." So,
Yeah.
whatever serotonin drop I have because, my gut cannot process that Thanksgiving meal, I know much better now to just be like, yeah, I'm gonna pay for it for maybe a day or 2 or maybe 3 or 4 days, but
Yeah.
it's okay. It's worth it for the joy of sitting around the table with my family, laughing, talking, and eating all this delicious, joyful stuff.
Yeah.
So,
It's like,
kinda keep that
mm,
in the back of your mind, everybody, like, it can be a really challenging time of year for a lot of people.
100%. Yeah. I just wanted to like, first of all, that's perfect. I just wanted to say like another way that sports ties into that is like if you've ever played a sport like football and martial arts, it's impossible to play those sports without getting hurt. Like without being bruised, without straining something, without hurting. I'm not saying injured, but like you get through this point in your life where it's like, and the same thing that happens with falling off your spiritual practice, falling off in your eating habits. It's like you can't always play fresh. You can't play the game of life straight out of meditation all the time. Sometimes it's fourth quarter or 12th round and you're tired and you're exhausted and you still got to roll with the punches. You still got to respond to life. And so I
Yeah,
think like that's why I love the grace. It's like that's what Scorpio says. It's like, yeah, you can't always be on top and all jolly all the time. It's like you need to be able to kind of move through. You have to learn how to move through the discomfort and move in comfort and
yeah.
realize at the end, like it's all for your good. And, and then obviously if you have this experience with your family, right? You have this crazy Thanksgiving debate and all this thing happens with all your loved ones, or there's this big fight that happens when your family gets together. Also, it's Sagittarius. Like I said, it's a fiery sign. It's meant to be tense. Like, keep that in mind. But all of that is meant to just be fuel. Like, you know what? I don't want my family to be like this. How can I make sure that next Thanksgiving or next Christmas is more heartfelt? And I love that that's what it gives you an opportunity to do is like, where do I want to be a year from now? How do I want all the people around me to interact with me? And what's so beautiful about the annual yearly cycle, and you have like the Sagittarius season where it's a whole bunch of celebrations, then you move into Capricorn is technically Christmas is when it starts. That's why Christmas has a little bit more of a serious tone to it. And you move in through, move to mid to late January, and it's sort of this mindset of like, okay, I have my family, I got my friends, I got my people here. We did our celebrating, like, let's get to work. And then you've worked, and then you get tired. Your body gets tired, but you still know it's winter and you still have work to do. You move into Aquarius. Aquarius says, what philosophy do I need? How can my mind over matter pull me up? But then after a while, your mind gets tired too. You can intellectualize this and that, but after round 14, it takes more than that. And that's when you
Mhm.
move into Pisces. And Pisces is about surrender. You don't really know what's going to happen. You can push as much as you want. You can pull as much as you want. You can train, you can do this, you can do that. You could be the best, most efficient, whatever, but ultimately, it's not in your hands. And then after that, you're reborn in Aries. So like I want to emphasize like what you're saying is it's like rather than thinking everything is like, oh, I know something is bad for me, I need to cut it off right now. Understand that the yearly cycle gives you the space to drop dead weight, just like trees, just like plants, just like living things or dogs that have fur. They grow the fur, they drop the fur. They grow the fur, they drop the fur. But some things like you're saying, like we can get in a tendency of beating ourselves up, but that beating ourselves up is keeping us from realizing that no, we can concentrate our attention on something higher, visualize a higher reality, and use all of that energy to create whatever it is that what we know we want to create in the future. But smell the roses while you're here and enjoy your loved ones, enjoy the memory of the ones that have passed. Um, enjoy the fact that you're even alive at this point. Um, And the last thing I'll say is like if you've ever lost someone or if this is like a hard time for you, I would say like just try to remember that tenderness that happened right after that person passed in your life, sort of like
Yeah.
how you were extra sensitive to the people that knew them and maybe you're a little bit fiery and a little bit aggressive or whatever in response, but just kind of hold on to that emotional sensitivity and realize like, okay, if I could ever feel this low, like imagine how high I could feel in the future and what this little experience is meant to manifest for me in the future. Like me who's lost I got my dad above me, he passed away and next to me, friends that I've lost, exes and all these certain things. But what I can tell you for sure is that when you focus on the joy, like the growth that happens from that loss, like year after year, is like so much higher than I think I would have ever imagined. And like, I think I said this last time. You know, losing things or you know giving things away. I would say if you have to give, you're giving this away. Really, you're letting this thing out of your life and it's moving on to the next phase. Like giving things away can be difficult, but whenever you give something, you always get something like in equal proportion. So, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if we're gonna talk to y'all before like the holiday season again, but if not, happy holidays, y'all.
Yeah, and just
Um,
remember, like, if your distress levels get too intense, bathroom yoga. Everybody has an excuse to go to the bathroom. Go in
mm,
there, do 30 seconds of deep breathing, do a little yoga stretch where you just reach up to the sky, lean back, and then reach forward and touch your toes, and then stand up and just swing side to side, let your arms swing. Just, any kind of like little reset, do like a little standing warrior series. Like all these things can be done in the bathroom. Nobody's in there in the bathroom with you and they don't know what's going on. And everybody gets to go spend time in the bathroom. No one's going to be like,
yeah,
hey, what are you doing? You're getting up in the middle of dinner. Like, if you got to get up and go to the bathroom in the middle of dinner because, your uncle is saying something that makes your head explode,
yeah,
get up, go to the bathroom, take a break, do your deep breathing. Do some of that box breathing we've taught you. Do some of that 30-second deep breath. Like, just it doesn't take a whole lot. And just allow yourself to reset and your nervous system to reset and then go back out and enjoy your family.
that's it.
And happy
Well, thank you,
holidays to
Rada.
all of you. And we probably won't talk to you again. We're going to record every 2 weeks now. So we probably won't talk to you again until after Christmas at least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, y'all. Till next
All right.
time.
Till next time.
Peace, Rada.
Boom, boom.